Welcome everyone. My name is Olga Petelczyc. I have a pleasure run a webinars audit talks over coffee since 2021. During the COVID time, I start to do this just to meet you and to share the experience or the knowledge. And now we are here in 2023 with such a great speakers, not only from Poland. So I'm really grateful for that. I run my own company, Auditox, Art Audit, sorry. And I'm internal auditor, but now I work as a consultant. I also run the training for internal auditor, but I'm also the author of the first obligatory training for statutory auditors in Poland about SSG reporting. So I'm really proud of that. It was really not easy job. And today I have a great pleasure to welcome so far 3 great guests, Sylwia, Milena, and Agata. And after will join us Robert Adamczyk. It's a small change because probably you remember from the poster that on the first idea was to meet also together with Jakub Wojnarowski, but unfortunately yesterday his flight was cancelled in the evening. But fortunately, Robert agreed to join us together, and we have also this perspective not only from the women but also from the men's side. So I think it's also important to hear what men would like to tell us about gender equality and diversity. So I'm really grateful to Robert that he agreed in the last moment, very late evening, I would say. We had a conversation and he agreed to join us. But okay, so before we start, I think that it will be maybe not all of you know our guests. And so I will start with Agata. Agata is a founding partner and attorney at law, but you can read it on the poster. But what is, I think, more important, that her company, she built this company from the scratch. Now it's quite a big company, I would say, and they have a great international clients. They are specialized in M&A investment agreements, but also the diverse clients are not only VC and PE, but also the startups from different branches, so fintech, biotech, and gaming company. But I think what is also important about Agata, that she created foundation Beautiful Angels, Piękne Anioły, and they support kids from poor families to live in the better condition. And Agata is involved in many other initiatives that support not only women but those who really needs the help. So I'm really happy that Agata agreed to join us today. So welcome. And I will start with alphabetic direction if you let me do this. And the second guest is Milena. You probably know already Milena from our previous webinar. Milena has 20 years of experience on capital market, but she is also a co-founder of 30% Club Poland, which I have also a pleasure to be the ambassador, but Milena with her friends bring this initiative to Poland, and that's why we can also be involved in this kind of topics, and we can support women on C-level, but also not only in the C-level, but the women to be on the C-level position. So I'm really grateful for that. And Milena also has her own company. She's an advisory, and she also built this company from the scratch. So I'm really I'm really happy that Milena today joined us and will deliver a presentation about situation of women in the corporation. So I think it's a really important topic. Our special guest today is Sylwia Wisner. Sylwia is, like you can also read in the poster, is in top 100 women for diversity in Germany. But Sylwia is also a leader advisor at one of the German company, but also have a great experience in management, general management across the Europe in big corporation and to work with women. Now Sylvia is also the member of the managing board and of the European Women of Board Association, but also the chair of the global membership committee. So welcome, Sylvia, and I'm really happy that you join us today. And our fourth guest will be Robert, but now Robert is taking part in another conference, so Robert will join us after. But Robert is SRG advisor in the European Bank, and he's also the member of the supervisory of Forum Odpowiedzialnego Biznesu in Poland, so Forum for Responsible Business Forum. And I'm really happy, as I said before, that Robert will join us after. So today we have a plan that we will start from the presentation of Milena. So Milena, the floor is yours.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you, Olga, for inviting 30% Club here and for supporting us. I hope you can see the presentation. So today I'll be speaking on behalf of a social campaign that was founded in 2010 in the UK with the aim to promote business benefits that arise from diversity. And the campaign engages CEOs and chairs, so people who set the tone in corporations, to act to set targets, measurable, ambitious targets in terms of diversity among their companies. The campaign has been very successful within the United Kingdom. When it started in 2010, share of women on boards was roughly 12.5% in FTSE 100, but now it is around 40%. And the reason why it's been so successful is because it was based on numbers, it was based on engagement, and it was based on positive focus, positive communication. In Poland, the campaign has been operating officially since June 2021, so it's been already some time that we are here. And we focus as a campaign in Poland to bring numbers, to speak about benefits, and to engage people with power to bring more diversity. So I am very proud to present you a very interesting report that actually speaks about how women perceive the workplace and tries to find out why we have so few women on top positions. And now you may ask me, well, 30%, why? And we already have the 30% within the title of the webinar. Well, 30% comes from science, from political studies that have been done in the second half of 20th century. And they say that within a group, for a minority to be more vocal, to have an impact on the majority, it needs to have a certain threshold. And that threshold is roughly 30%. So we need at least 30% women on boards, on C-suite, in order to bring the benefits of diversity. And you can check statistics in your countries, but in Poland, as you can see from the pyramid, we are far away from 30% on the top. While running the social campaign together with my friends, we very often hear that, well, women are a minority because there aren't just enough qualified women. So please have a look at statistics. Find out how they look like in your country. But in Poland, 63% of university graduates are women. If we take finance, management, law, it is almost 70%. Then if we look at broad managerial workforce, we'll see that women constitute 44%. It's actually the second highest number within the UK. But then the glass ceiling starts. And when we look at the C-suite and boards, or in Poland, management plus supervisory boards, we see that women constitute just 17%. And literally, Out of 140 companies on the Warsaw Stock Exchange, there were just 3 women CEOs at the end of 2020. Well, you may ask if this situation has just been a one-off at the end of 2022, and if we again look at the 140 blue chips on Warsaw Stock Exchange, we see that situation is improving, but relatively slowly. So we can see that it's easier to find women in supervisory boards. There were more than 20% of them. Then within management boards, where you have more power, where you are expected to be more engaged within a company, but you also have to devote more time, but earn more at the same time. We can see that share of women as chairs, so running supervisory board, is roughly stable at around 16%, but share of women as CEOs is falling. So we were very much interested, what are the true reasons behind those statistics? And as a campaign, we thought that the best way to do it will be to actually ask women, not to listen to many of the stereotypes, but to get a voice of those persons who potentially could sit in C-suite, could sit on boards. So last year, we've conducted a broad Poland-wide survey that gathered 4,262 responses. Those are not representative for the whole country, but I think it's a strong voice, and you can check or cross-check how those responses resonate with you. What was important that the voice of women was diverse, and we had many educated women. You can see that those with master degree or equivalent or PhD were the highest portion of the respondents, and at the same time they came from different positions, different backgrounds. But what's important that there were 450 managerial positions directly below C-suite and 135 in terms of management and supervisory board members. That voice is typically very hard to get. So I think that here we can see that something's not okay. So I think that we can see that that was a diverse background, and at the same time, what's important to understand the answers is that the majority of our respondents, they were in long-term relationships. That majority of them had children, and those children were mostly in the age between 7 to 15. So more than half of our respondents were mothers. And now what were the questions? Well, just a few of them. So again, running the campaign, very often hear that, well, women, they just do not want to be promoted. They are shy and they don't want to be in C-suite or supervisory boards. So you can see that 91% of our respondents said that career, professional success is important to them. I think that's overwhelming. And when the question was asked again, but for women in general, as you can see on the upper part of the slide, again, 93% said that career success is important for women. And the majority also said that it's important in the same way for women and for men. So we already know that women want to be promoted. They are ambitious and they want to aim higher. And we ask the question, so do you want to be promoted to senior positions? And again, you can see that the largest part of the answers was yes. But what's even more important, that if we looked more detail within the data, we can see that within those women who were just below sea level, 75% of them said that yes, they want to be hired, they want to be in top positions. So I think that's a very strong voice saying how ambitious women are and that they want to advance. And honestly, another theme that we hear very often within our campaign is that, well, we do ask women to hold top positions, but they refuse. So we asked that question to our group. And what you can see is that 70% of our respondents said that they have never refused a promotion. So I think, again, it's an overwhelmingly strong voice. Those women who did say no, we asked them for reasons, and you can see them listed on the right-hand side of the graph, and you would see the family situation that was not allowing her to take on a senior position. They didn't feel ready for the job, or the salary and responsibility was not adequate, or they feared that it would negatively affect their health. But that was just 1/4 of the respondents. And what was the motivation? That may also be interesting in order to look for a solution. The key motivation to be higher was for women a higher salary, and also the desire to develop and to achieve their goals. Another one was greater autonomy of actions. So we can see that remuneration is something that was mentioned here, and we will be seeing that remuneration further on. So if we know that women want to go higher up the ranks, so what's stopping them? Maybe it's the workplace. So we asked what's their opinion, whether women within their industry as a whole receive the same opportunities for development and promotion. And you can see here that the most common answer was no. But then we rephrased the question and we asked women whether within their company, their organization, do they see the same opportunities? And here you can see the proportions reversed, and majority of women said yes. And that's very interesting because it points to a solution. So women were answering more favorably within those companies that have been running any diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives. We weren't asking for specifics, but 60% of the respondents, they worked in organizations where DEI initiatives have been conducted. So you can see that women within those organizations were more likely to say that they had the same opportunities and that they were satisfied with their current workplace. So if it's that, we asked another question. So do you think that women are required the same in order to have their job? And here again, you can see that majority of women within the survey, they stated that the requirements for women are higher than for men within the same job. So we can see here that there's a perceived inequality that our respondents are seeing, which can be hinting again to some of the solutions that we will be trying to find for the problem. So if that treatment is different, well, then most likely you are already asking yourselves, so what is the reason behind this perceived different treatment? And that was exactly another question that we've been asking within the survey. And you can see here that we've asked for 5 characteristics, and we asked women to point which is a key specific to their different treatment. And overwhelmingly, again, you can see orange now, that mostly women pointed to gender being the key reason while they are treated much or slightly worse. So I think it's a strong indication. It was much stronger than their family situation, than their character traits or personality. So it again tells us a little bit more about the picture that we see within corporations. But what we have not really been expecting or asking within the questions, but what data showed, is actually that women are treated more unfavorably because of their age and family situation. So if you look at the left-hand side, I know that these graphs may be a bit complicated, but you'll see them in a presentation later on. You can see that women 40, 50, 60 years old, they tended to answer, or that they felt that their age is one of the reasons for this unequal treatment. And at the same time, similar answers were given by mothers who felt that, again, their opportunities are not as equal as others, and especially that percentage was high within women whose children were infants between 0 to 3 years old. So again, think about your corporations, ask yourself those questions. Do you agree? Do you have similar thoughts about the situation? And again, we looked deeper within statistics and found out similarly that DEI initiatives were important. And within those companies that run any DEI initiatives, women felt that they had more opportunities, they felt treated better, and also those women who had children, they also answered more favorably when they were employed in companies running DEI initiatives. So I think it's a strong trait in searching for answers, but not the only one. So we already know that women want to be promoted, that they perceive the workplace as not giving them equal chances. So another set of questions was related to barriers. So do women see any barriers, and if yes, what kind? So the first thing we asked was about what type of behaviors do they encounter within the current workplace. And they could select multiple answers. So please have a look. The most common answer, 68%, was that they hear comments on their appearance, both positive and negatives. The third answer is unkind comment in relation to gender. So we can see that women feel judged by their looks, by their gender. And at the same time, stereotyping is the second most common discriminatory gender-based behavior. 39% of respondents being overlooked for promotions, persistent interruption and inability to speak, or ignoring the ideas put forward. And I think it's important to remember those answers, because we very often hear that women are just not self-assured and that they're afraid to promote their ideas. But then if you have the previous page in mind, you actually see the full picture. And indeed, when we asked about barriers, you can see that many of them scored around 3 out of 5 possible points. Lack of self-confidence, fear of failure or criticism, lack of adequate professional network, or heavy burden from family and traditional division of roles. So you can see a lot of those elements. But then the question comes down to stereotypes. That was the second most common behavior they've experienced. So we asked about 13 stereotypes. We've run a focus group study before that survey to find out between both men and women what are the most common stereotypes that can be found within the workplace. And then we asked our respondents, and they could choose between often, very often, rarely, never, sometimes. And you can see a list here, and the list is ranked based on how many women answered often and very often that they meet with those stereotypes. And I think what's first important to underline is that out of 4,262 women, less than 1%, actually 32 of them had never experienced any of those stereotypes, and they were mostly young women. The most common stereotype that was observed by our respondents was that ambitious women are difficult to work with. Well, maybe some of you already read, or maybe you know the Heidi Howard Columbia Business School experiment, which showed that for men, the more successful they are, the more likable they are. But for women, it works the other way around. Well, here we can see that the first stereotype was the only one which scored more than 50% of the answers. The others are that women are ruled by emotions or hormones, that they do not do well in technical matters, that a woman who devotes herself to work well usually compensates for a failed relationship, and that a male career should have the precedence. So if we look at the picture that is painted, I think that I can sum it up using the words of one of the respondents, who said that there's always something wrong with women, that they are never enough, because either they are too ambitious or they have too little ambition. Either they already are mothers, or they may have children, or they are grandmothers. So the women in elderly ages, they're also discriminated. So it's really hard to fit in, because any feature, literally any feature, could be used against women. So please have a look in detail at those statistics once Olga sends you the presentation. And now the last minutes, I would want to speak about solutions, because of course we asked the respondents what could change the situation. And if you can see the answers, again, it was a multiple choice. You can see that rise in remuneration for additional duties is the highest ranked. But also equal pay for men and women ranks around 35% of answers. So we can see that remuneration, which I pointed to you at the beginning, is an important is an important solution. So fair remuneration, higher remuneration. But the other two answers, you can see it's a flexible approach to the workplace, both in terms of place or in terms of hours. And we actually can see that it differs in terms of age. So we can see that here, for example, for younger women, that flexibility is important, but also for those over 60. And what was important, that even though the survey was answered by highly educated women, you've seen that the majority of them had master's or higher degree, then still many of them thought that an opportunity to participate in trainings would be a solution. That was especially indicated by younger women that took part within the survey. So you can see that there are solutions, that women point to those solutions. And I think it's a great starting place for the webinar, for the part with questions, because we have great speakers here who will try to find the solution. So it's all for me. And I would like to thank you very much for your time. And if you need any more details about the campaign, do not hesitate to contact us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Milena, for this presentation and for this insightful report. I already see some comments that our attendee agree with what you said, probably from practice and everyday life, and it's a bit sad, but it's reality. So if any of you would like to receive the report of the presentation, it will be available on the website of my company, and I will send you also the link to the campaign, and you can join us, support us, and we will be grateful for that. But as Milena said, so thank you again, Milena. And as Milena says, now it's time for the discussion. And Sylvia, I would like to start from you. Could you briefly comment the report, and do you agree? Is there something that surprised you? What is the reality?
Thank you so much, Milena, for really perfectly well setting the scene. And I can probably comment based on my work with European Women on Board, so seeing the wider European scheme of things, and also as a leadership advisor at Egon Zehnder, working with many women all across Europe and globally. It's a shared topic, it's a shared challenge. I might just comment on the topic of turning down promotion offers. So you could say 70% have never given up on a promotion opportunity, which could feel nice and positive. However, the question is, how many have not been offered the opportunity to begin with, or not the right opportunity, or not early enough. And based on my experience from talking with female leaders every single day now, I do recognize many of the reasons that were brought forward, or reasons for not raising your hand yourself, or not early enough, or not loudly enough. And I'll just pick out a few of them. I do believe that the family situation simply plays a role, because we have not yet arrived at a situation where equal care is a reality. And the societal pressures are real. The societal perception of female and male leaders with children remain different. And people, both male and female, in a recent study conducted in Germany, show that they just don't believe it's doable. They don't believe it's feasible to have both a career and a family. So that creates a lot of pressure. Secondly, I think it's also true there's a certain element of trust or lack of trust when it comes to capabilities and experience, which is something we need to address ourselves with a bit of help from organizations. And I'll just give you a very concrete example. So basically, on a daily basis, I get approached about NED opportunities, non-executive director roles. How do I land a board position? And female leaders will almost always ask whether there is a certain training that they should take, something I want to recommend. I do not get that question from male candidates. And my response tends to be, that's great if you do it for yourself, for your own confidence. But looking at your CV, listening to you, you are already well placed to take on such a position. So I think that's an element to tackle as well. And let me close with a third topic, because we also may not forget that times are changing. Women do walk away from employers, and they do so for reasons. They are more likely to experience the microaggressions we also heard a bit about. They're doing more to support employee well-being and to foster inclusion. That's critical work, but it's also spreading you thin, and it mostly goes unrewarded. And I think that's why you are seeing that for both male and female leaders, it becomes increasingly important that companies prioritize the flexibility, the employee well-being, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So lots of angles to take to address the topic.
Okay, thank you. It's really insightful, and I think that also for internal auditors, but not only internal auditors, it's really useful if they would like to run the audits about the diversity in the company, and it's they have already a list of risk from what you said. So it's so thank you for that, and for sharing your experience. And Agata, what is your comment about the report? How you see this situation?
So first of all, I would like to thank Milena for a great presentation, and also for the summary that Sylvia made, because I think both of you showed lots of, as Sylvia said, there are lots of angles to be checked and things to be discussed here. But what I would like to stress is that on a market that I'm in, so on a legal market, it may seem that, all of us women lawyers, we are experts, and those of us who are running their own companies, they say that they don't know what we are talking about, that there are no problems, that they have never, for example, met any situations when men were trying to belittle their knowledge or the things that they do in their lives, and they say that in general it's not a problem. But frankly speaking, it's a totally it's not like that. So there is for example, there last year there was a special report prepared by PwC together with a foundation that I'm cooperating with, which is called Women in Law. And there was a special report prepared. There were 600 women lawyers interviewed, and this report is called "Situation of Women Lawyers in a Polish Legal Industry." And mostly the women who are interviewed were women from big law firms, from also corporate lawyers working inside the companies. And unfortunately, what was shown from their perspective, from the perspective of the 600 women, is that the situation is not so colorful as it may seem, because over 85% of women working in the legal industry in Poland, they said that they experienced belittling of their competence due to gender. 71% of responders felt that being a woman has an adverse effect on the decisions of the superiors regarding their careers. 49% of female lawyers said that they had problems balancing their careers, professional and private spheres. Some of them said that they feel negative treatment by coworkers or clients on the basis of gender, and that it still takes place. Unfortunately, it is more often encountered by women in Polish companies than in foreign ones. It is because there are no this EIY procedures or or events organized. So this is the problem, that unfortunately in Polish companies, most of them run by men. They say there's not such problem, and because of that, it is how it is. And female lawyers also said that they have difficulties with promotions, with returning to work after maternity leave. And even though the support for female lawyers from employers is still declaratively high, but it is too limited. And this is the perspective of women. So to sum this, of course, if anyone would like to see this report, I can share it later on with you. Unfortunately, it's in Polish, so but still, it's really interesting to see it. So I would say that lots of things needs to be done here. And as an example, a few years ago, when I started to be in the football industry for a moment, I ran one of the football Ekstraklasa club for a while. I was there in a management board, later on in a supervisory board. And frankly speaking, the first question that I was asked by a journalist who came to me to talk about what I'm doing there, what is my plan for being in this management board, was his first question was, what is the offside? So frankly speaking, can you imagine that the journalist is coming to a man asking him what the offside is? And this was the first question. So he wasn't trying to know what is my plan for this club. He was trying to show that I shouldn't be there because I have a long blonde hair. So this is about stereotypes and how it happens in life. So that's all from my side.
And I would bet, Agatha, we would find enough males out there who would not be able to properly explain what offside is all about. Just say.
Okay.
Thank you for the example. I'm not going to test you, Robert, unless you want.
Okay, Agatha, thank you for sharing your personal experience, because I think it's even more important that the statistics, but of course they are also important. And Robert, thank you that you join us. I already introduced you on the beginning. We are really happy that you are with us, and you will present the voice of men. So what about men and your opinion?
Okay, well, first of all, I understand Chatterham's, this is not an EBRD, and I'm sort of maybe not an expert in all the areas, but I did chair this staff council the works council at the EBRD for a long time, and some observations from that and general sort of views of going which way. So I think there's a cultural, but it's also it's not just gender sometimes, it is also cultural issues. And I find it that in some cultures, and in Poland, of course, differently than in Scandinavia, but I remember being just even a Polish white male didn't give me very good starting career, had to do a lot more among my Anglo-Saxon white male colleagues. Yes, okay, so that's that there it is. So therefore it goes down, and if I was a different color, then that would be our ethnicity, even harder. You have to do a lot more. So this issue is, I think, something we need to fight and look at. Equality is I think essential. There is a huge issue in terms of how say, male colleagues quite often going out and drinking, organizing events during the week, which pressurize, and that creates cliques. Those cliques then are friends of friends that support each other, is a real and often dominated, therefore, by men. So the areas that they have to fight and change is, why have these drinks during the week or something else? Because actually sometimes weekends is easier for everybody to set out kids or anything. But during the week is very difficult, and those with families are therefore excluded. You have a very, and particularly if you have to look at younger kids, it's the entire issue of support, kindergartens. Poland is easier in some ways because it is for professional people easier to actually do with the supply with child support. It's, if I look at London, it's a nightmare. People give up jobs because of that. And there isn't any of the social infrastructure. So I even look at the EBRD. We don't do as much as we should to promote and push through. We try, but it's not there. There should be full paternity in the Scandinavian level. That gives the equality, because then people fall out. There should be more child support, because that is, again, we provide some emergency, some others. So this is a very important aspect of how to develop, but it's the behavioral issues of you could say, men, on when you organize meetings, how you organize meetings, off sites or going out for the drinks, which are the sort of quite often issues. So I think from as a male, that's something that we should look at, but that's about equality and equality of treatment. So I think this is a big problem. In Poland, it is, of course, different, and it's shocking that you got 2% of female. This is at the top, but these are also politically motivated. Some of those decisions, unfortunately, at the current stage in Poland. So I did see a big issue, and this is why we provided some guidance on reporting and needing for disclosures, because I've been with the Forum Odpowiedzialnego Biznesu for Polish Responsible Business Forum for quite a while on the review of annual reports from listed companies. And about 2017-18, basically there was an issue in the Polish politics about gender. All those companies controlled by the state removed everything about gender. So this is one of the reasons we went with the stock exchange. We need to write some sort of guidance and everything else. And that coincided with CSRD, so trying to put information. So the politicization of some issues is very high. But at the end of the day, it's a cultural issue. And it's how to promote, educate. And the one unfortunate thing that I experience is as well, and is also in my role as the selected voluntary representative on a trade union, is that I did find this generation, actually, sometimes women were the worst enemies of themselves. I had quite a lot of senior people I talked to about, let's do something more. And their response was, well, I haven't got any kids. I had to work all this hard. Why should I bother? And it was a real in-your-face issue of going, wow. And these were at the vice president level, people senior going in and really, really not wanting and not supporting some of the issues that we were trying to put forward to paternity leaves or support for childcare and other things. They're saying, well, I didn't have it. Why should anyone else? That's changing. That is an older generation, and a generation is leaving. But that, I think, also resulted in sometimes actually the lack of support was a tendency. But we as men have to change, and we have to change our approach, how we organize. But it should be equality. How meetings are organized by both sides, and or not both sides, it's by everybody. And I think this is the culture, the corporate culture of why have a lunch meeting instead of drinks after work. We work now in a more flexible environment, so it makes no difference whether it's lunchtime or it's after work, because we will still be working in the evenings or other things because we are flexible. The flexibility, I think, will allow a lot more, and as long as we keep that flexibility, of equal treatment, where you can actually go and do some of the family orientated things and combine professional work. So I think that flexibility of following the pandemic has, but we need to, we're guilty. And as I say, you ask me about the football, you know, whether it is, I'm sure I will put my hand up as well. We're always got things we could do better. And it's education, it's discussion, but it's our behaviors we need to change, but it's the corporate behaviors. And I don't think it's just that. It's a corporate behavior that has been enshrined for a long time, that you have these drinks, you have these things, events, how to change them and maybe do things that finish earlier, do them during the day, will still work. And I think it doesn't mean, and I think we're moving away from the culture of this drinking and going out. It's no longer healthy, and less people engage in that and like it.
Maybe just a quick reply to what you've said, because while you were talking, I saw a message pop up in one of my messenger windows announcing an invitation for a call tonight at 7 p.m. To be honest, I'm going to say no. I started early. I'm working the full day. I have a 4-year-old daughter. I want to see her tonight.
Yes.
I'm sure there's a different opportunity out there. I'm going to say no because of myself and my family, but also because I know this is contributing to what will be the normal behaviors going forward, respecting family time, regardless of gender.
Yeah, and I think that respect, and this is something that we all have to learn, is that respect for somebody else. It's hard. We all, as I say, fall guilty sometimes of it as we run around in our professional lives or day-to-day lives. But it is, okay, you know, how is your team? How will they react? What do they need? But it's everything from cultural issues. You know, if you're working in, let's say, some Arab countries, Friday is off. Don't do an org meeting on a Friday. Why do a meeting on a Friday if you can do it on a Monday or a Thursday? So that you respect those cultural differences, because they will be having a different time. Looking at ensuring that, you know, the time zones. I mean, we quite often in our people just forget that people live in a different time zone, and we have an office in a different time zone, and they set up a meeting which is at 7 p.m. and you go, well, why? Or 5 a.m. So again, this issue, and that affects Poland as well with international companies. You've got meetings set up because someone either in London or in the US has forgotten that there's a time zone difference. Right. And that is, it's natural. It's easy to click something else in your Outlook just because it's easy. I've got free time at 5 p.m., but you don't think about what it means for somebody in Central Asia, for instance, if we're working there. So that, I think, is that sensitivity, understanding. At the end of the day, we also need to have people to meet up and do certain events, but those need to be organized, and then help people with you. If you have to go away and you're a single mother or a single father these days, that there's childcare. And a corporate issue. Why not provide emergency? You want somebody to be at this event. It's important to bring everybody, give them opportunities, give them that sort of you could say emergency or additional childcare to support that day. This is, at the end of the day, if you organize these meetings, which are important for your career, but they're actually work related. Engagement and people engagement is work related, and therefore that should be part of the cost. And people then that say, oh, well, this is extra, why should we give somebody benefits? Well, it isn't, because that person will give us more out of them. And we are working as a collegiate, as a society. And as a society, we need to look at everybody to bring the merit-based approach. And I actually am somebody that believes very much on merit, rather than certain soft skills or quotas or anything else. Give the opportunity to everybody to perform at they are, and you bring out the best, and you'll very quickly get equality. Probably even in Poland, there's more women educated than men, if we look at the statistics. So actually, there should be more women in management in Poland because even of the university structure. So the fact it isn't, it shows a lot of people falling out or not being encouraged. And that is another thing, is the mentoring, encouraging, it's saying, you know, when things are done good. When I see that, and I saw that from the staff council, is when a guy gets something done, you've got all the guys going off, or everybody having a drink and celebration. When they don't, or it's maybe men are easier sometimes. We you could say dominate ourselves a bit forward. Polish, I've lost the English, is kobiety są skromniejsze, and that is sort of less sort of self, the egos maybe is where you go. So that is again, promote, say as a manager, if someone does good well, promote it among your team. Push through, and that sometimes again doesn't like it. I often see it's a certain, from certain cultures it's more male than it is coming in for you know, somebody's done well, of saying, you know, so and so's the really great, and that is important, that it's get the airwaves like equally in the team, so that people understand who's done what and that they've been successful.
Okay, Robert.
And I think some of the actions you refer to, Robert, from corporates, also important to say, this is not about just being generous or doing what is morally correct. It's also an economic necessity.
It's a business.
Right? We are running out of leaders, so you better embrace the whole pool.
Okay.
I mean, but you look at it, is that I've seen negotiation. There is a different dynamic if you've got a diverse team in a negotiation than if you've got a certain monoculture. So that, I think, is, I mean, look at politics. You could argue that the more women were at a higher level of politics, the less conflicts there are, the more sort of resolutions. So it is something that I think in day-to-day, it's important, and we need to work on that, and I think we as men need to do a lot more.
Okay, thank you for this discussion, honestly, and it's really insightful. So what I understand is that first of all, we need more empathy. I think that to be open for others, and the cultural issues are important. The education, the change of generation also a bit, and the COVID opened us for a new opportunity, which could be a huge chance for women also to be promoted and have a higher position in the organization. So it's great. But if we can back for a minute for the stereotypes, and do we have some other tips which could be useful for our participants today, which they can use in the everyday life, and how they should behave in this kind of situation? Sylvia, maybe we will start with you. And I have also a question to our participants. If you could also share on the chat with your tips how to fight with stereotypes about women. For example, women do not support women, yes, or women do want to be promoted, or they prefer to stay at home. So this is just the stereotypes. We already know that it's not true.
Mm-hmm. Maybe first just a little reference to the more global or European perspective. So you might want to look up the Reykjavik Index for Leadership, which I think is a pretty interesting measure. It shows the perceptions over time, understanding how people think males and females are capable of taking on certain leadership positions in both the public and the private sector. And you would see almost all countries are still quite a bit away from having equality between the two genders. Iceland is closest, and that's my first point. We need to look for the lighthouses, the role models that understand what certain countries, certain corporations are doing right. Take Iceland, for example. I think it is paying off that they integrated gender equality in the constitution in 2000, or in 2018, they became the first country to enforce equal pay. Yeah? So it's different elements that will also spill over in other areas, such as perception. Second point, some of you may know Iris Bonet, who is working at the Harvard Kennedy School, behavioral scientist, and she is usually bringing in this word of caution. It's great to address mindset. thinking of all the unconscious bias trainings. We should continue doing those. But there is not a single validated study out there showing that it actually works, at least in the short term. And therefore, it's so important that we address the behavior change. We address the behavior change now, knowing that experience will create different types of mindsets. And on that note, I would mention two concrete elements. One being, we need to have role models. So it's basically what you do not see is not what you believe. So we need to have female leaders and we need to showcase them. And there may be a certain element of inhibition to also go out there and talk about your own case and to be that role model. But self-promotion is okay. It's going to help your own career and it's totally normal and everybody is doing it or should be doing it. And it's also adding to the wider cause. So one, show off the role models who are doing what many more would like to do. And secondly, I think we have still a big task in terms of language we are using. So we need to work on gender sensitive or gender inclusive communication and language, which then takes us to the point of the media plays an extremely relevant role in this territory.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So probably we also need more trainings about unconscious bias, not only for men, but also for women. That is because, as Robert said, sometimes we are our own enemy. So could be also very useful. And the language, now we fight in Poland a lot with femininum, yeah, to use the female endings in the wording, and it's a huge problem. Yeah, maybe huge, maybe it's too much, but for a lot of people, it's still a problem to use the female endings for the in the correspondence. Yeah, so Agata, as a lawyer, Robert, yes, you would like to add?
But I think this, just to say this, in Poland, we've got the ESG and everything else, but I see how often it is politicized in Poland, that it's pro-family and actually not equality. And not always. So you have this issue that sometimes it's being skewed. The S is just pro-family. It's not actually the entire sort of social aspects of the sustainability. So that's something that also needs to be just looked at. That we need to look at. It's about equality, equal pay, equal opportunities, and promotion. But at the end of the day, it's a mindset, and I agree with that. It's training. It's our mindset, and you can do as much training as you have, but if you don't actually have the empathy, people attend training courses and don't listen to those courses. It's how in practice and the sort of cultural change takes time and it's a bit more effort.
Okay, thank you. Agata.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to comment on some questions that I saw from our participants. There was a question, because I used the word legal industry, and maybe you are right, I should say legal sector. It means that we are talking about legal services in general. And to sum up this presentation that I was talking about, so the one about the situation on the legal market in Poland, 76% of those women who were interviewed were from law firms, and 24% of women lawyers were from internal legal departments. So this is who was interviewed there. But coming back to the second subject, so from my point of view, what I observe among young women lawyers is that what they do need is a mentorship and support from other women. And I've been working with this foundation, Women in Law, for 4 years. And for me, it's a very interesting opportunity to talk to young women lawyers who are at the beginning of their careers, who are just entering the market, and they are from the generation Z, or Z, how it's called now. And what they say is that, unfortunately, when I compare their situation to mine, what really makes me sad is that at home, there are still lots of things to be done as far as working on the self-confidence of women, of our daughters, of our of female in general, because unfortunately what you, Robert, said is that women are modest. This is how we are raised, that we should be modest, we shouldn't be loud, we shouldn't be, we should always have clean dresses, we should always prepare well. This is how unfortunately our mothers are telling us, and I thought that maybe it was in our generation that we were raised in this way. But when I compare the way how the daughters of my friends, because I have one son, and I know how much time I spent with him, telling him that he should behave well when he's confronted with women, and how he should react, and that what he should said or not. But when I compare it to the way my friends are raising their daughters, unfortunately, still there is a lot to be done. And this is the problem. What these young lawyers said to me, that this is what Sylvia said, that they do need a role model, women a role model. They should. It shouldn't be only someone that they can read about from the newspaper or somewhere. I think in each firm, in each corporation, there should be someone that these women could have a chance to talk, to find someone who can be her mentor. And this is, for me, this is an incredible experience. I've already worked with 5 of these young lawyers for several months, and it's really so impressive to see that very often it's not my job to tell them what to do, because as a mentor, I'm only trying to encourage them, to support them, to think about some things that should be done, that should be changed in their lives. And very often they told me after that, and I see that their life, their professional life has completely changed after this 3 months or 4 months of our work together. And what is important from my point of view is that very often they say, you just show me, you just raised some questions that I started to think about, that I haven't think about earlier, and that changed the whole everything in my life. So from my perspective, there is such a hard work to be done on a very low educational level, for example, as far as the education of women is concerned, that they should just be brave to ask the questions to themselves even, or to just have someone to talk about, and it's really not much to be done to change the attitude, but still this work should be done.
And I loved Agata's point on it starts so early. I tend to get into discussions with my own parents when they are trying to show appreciation to their granddaughter, my little one, 4-year-old. And I'm the one who is very much into, positive nurturing. But I don't want her to only hear you are pretty and you are such a good girl. It's just not the narrative I want her to be exposed to.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. So we need to start, since we need to start in kindergarten to work with the women. And but I also like what you said, Agata, about this mentoring program, and that, okay, maybe not all of us have chance to have open-minded parents, and maybe a lot of girls hear that you must be a good girl all the time, yeah, or not to be a good girl is something offensive even for parents sometimes, yeah, and they do not agree for that we choose our own way. And I also know this because for my mom, that to don't have, for example, to have own company and to don't have the work agreement, yeah, a full-time work agreement is something really unbelievable how it's possible, yeah, to live in that way, yeah. So it's this level. But I really like what you said about mentoring program, and maybe it's also the idea for internal auditors in Poland to create this kind of program and to support women in our profession, like you do in the law services, yeah. And I like a lot also this Women in Law Association. And what I would like to add, what Agata says, is that you, like association or foundation, create a guide for women, słoneczko zrób mi kawę. Yeah? So in English, it's honey, make a coffee for me. And there are a lot of biased situations in which men treat in discriminative way the women. Yeah? For example, I don't know, Olga, you made a great presentation, so Robert will present it to the board. Yeah, or this kind of cases you can find there. And I think that it's also good to know how to behave in this kind of situation, not only be shocked at how it's possible that someone can
and to react, even though I always say to this young women who are talking to me that one thing is that you should react to what you are directly being spoken, but also if you hear something like this, if you are sitting in the same room and someone behaves like that, you should have courage to say it's not okay. And really, it works. I had several situations like this years ago. Now it's a little bit better, but there used to be a situation that I was negotiating in a room. As you said, I'm working for 15 years now with mergers and acquisitions, and it was very often like this, that I was the only woman in a room. There were only men there. And unfortunately, what happened to me when I was younger, now maybe they're a little bit afraid because I'm older, but 15 years ago, when there was a young girl sitting there, and I was quite sure what I was talking about, and I wasn't just sitting, in silence, but I was negotiating for my clients. And sometimes I heard words like, "You're just a blonde girl and you shouldn't speak." So it happened to me. And really, then my men clients, they just raised and they just leave the room. They said that they're not going to negotiate with a person like this because it was inappropriate. So they, in a way, helped me to understand that I should react. I shouldn't leave a situation like this with no reaction. And this is what I'm trying to tell to these young women, that they should react. They shouldn't be scared to say it's not okay. That I felt offended with this word, or just like this. So now, when I'm running my own company and there is 25 people there, what I'm trying to tell them is always, if someone, this is about the language, as you said, if someone is using the language in an appropriate way, or because sometimes it can be said out of, it's not that every time someone is attacking you, but sometimes it happens that the words can hurt, and someone should say, I'm not okay with the way you tell something. Yes, and this is okay. There shouldn't be any bad reactions to the situation when you react. Your words, for example, hurt me, or something like this.
Okay,
But
so
it's also how to bring in, and even when you have the networks, how to bring in some of the men, and of course it's not just the you could say those that are already convinced or pretend or think they are, because quite often perceptions and reality is two different things. But it's also how to reach out to the rest, and how to reach out to sort of the management boards, or reach out to the sort of some of the big law firms where there are more or accountants, more men. How to reach out to bring that in terms of power, because it is, at the end of the day, is changing hearts and minds, but it's more not even changing hearts and minds, it's more the culture. And that's a long process, which has been there for hundreds of years, and if not longer. And therefore it is how do we bring it into the 21st century, how we put in modern ways, and particularly with the modern ways of working, that it is actually now there is no reason, only reason, it is the way it should be. It's just, it should be 50-50, or in Poland actually should be 60%. You've got 60% of people going to university, then in senior management it should be reflecting the people that have gone through the educational system. But even on that side, there needs to be, but it's how to bring the cultural change, and the cultural change has to come at all levels. we have this unfortunate, I mean, was it last week, Confederacja, this sort of video that there was on, was one of the most sort of political party with 12%. What they said was, it's like hearing the Taliban. And it is that side needs to be also in some ways addressed, because that should not, that is more or less on the verge of criminality, I think, because it's hatred, and that I think needs to be as well in some ways tackled.
And I think it's two very good points that I heard at the beginning of your statement. One is we all need to get out of this bubble of an ESG bubble and diversity, equity, and inclusion bubble. We need to be in touch with those who are not yet on our side of things, because otherwise, it just won't work. We will be surprised that we are not achieving what we need to achieve. And the second bit about the culture, I think we really need to talk about inclusive culture overall, and then trying to break it down to what can I do as a leader, and however you want to define leader. I really believe in order to create an inclusive culture, it starts with yourself. It starts with authenticity. It's about bringing your whole self to work. It's about signaling to others it's totally okay. You can show up the way you are in this entity that we call an office or whatever.
The two things is, it goes in from also how people dress, and I see in Poland women dress a lot more say elegantly and differently and than they would in the UK. There's a big difference on that side. But you have also the issue to consider: men feel threatened. Totally threatened. I mean, they're absolutely, you could say, that side of it's about merit, of their sort of accomplishment and their masculinity and everything else. There's a big element in that, and particularly in Poland, where they're brought up in a certain way, is that a man is going to be the, as the grandparents saying, that you're going to be the breadwinner of the family and all of this. It is a real issue. I know that also from my female friends, but male friends, is that sometimes highly educated women can't, men are frightened of them to even be a partner, to even go on a date. And it is an area of so it's that real, there's also, why is that threat, which way it goes, because I don't think there is, but it is a perception. And that needs to be tackled as well, because it is a very strong perception. That is that knee-jerk reaction, unnecessary, but it's there. So it's always two sides of the coin, but there is that male fear, and that's a real. I find it strange, but some people do not. There is that they have that, and that's something to tackle in the longer term, because it's like everything. The more people you have doing well, and the more merit-based and therefore professional, and who is good is basically at the top, that resolves issues, the better for everybody, both economically, society, and everything else. And that's the same with environmental issues, with ESG issues, anything else. Merit should be the basis, rather than you speak nicely or you are in the same group and go drinking together.
Okay, Robert, thank you for this point. Honestly, I had a question for you, how man could support women, but maybe I will give another question to Sylvia and Agata, how women can support men to don't be afraid of well-educated and successful women. Yeah?
And that's a good question, I think. Yes, it's a real one. How? Because it's a two-way street. We have to change and we have to do, but there is a fear, and how do you deal with that?
I will say, though, I don't think it's the most important question in the whole picture. So in terms of
I agree.
making sure we are creating the right narrative, I would put the question to the side, completely acknowledging and maybe just saying, I think there's a topic of confidence, regardless of gender, that needs to be infused. And you probably want to have leaders who are just in tune with themselves and are on their way to developing their best selves, but are not trying to become someone else. but it goes down to the confidence level.
Okay, so back to the topic, we say a lot about how to build inclusive culture, honestly, and but I think that the element which is important in inclusive culture, and we already said about the leadership, that the leader should give a good example. But what about inclusive recruiting? Because this is, I think, also important part of building the culture of the company, to recruit the right person, not only from the point of view of the educational level, but also from the point of view of the behaviors and values. Yeah,
That's probably directed at me, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a bit part of my everyday job these days. Yes. So I think if we look at the current situation, Milena, kindly shared statistics relevant to us. Progress has been made worldwide in terms of promoting diversity in leadership appointments, but it largely comes from external pressures or individual effort. It's not linked to the system itself. And I think that's the problem we need to address. Now, I think when it comes to leadership appointments, the first part is just acknowledging that they are influenced by all kinds of cognitive biases and by group affiliations. And that's why we at Egon Zehnder also took this topic on board and said, we need to rework the whole recruiting or executive search process. And basically what needs to be done is you need to put inclusivity at the core of that process, at every single element, which means you do not exclude any leader and you're not seeking a predetermined outcome. And nevertheless, it will lead to more diversity. Likewise, when we talk about something like the EU directive for women on boards, the fact that there are quotas, there are objectives behind, why does it work? It works because you are asked to go for a transparent and very disciplined process. So having a proper process in place gives you more diverse outcomes to begin with. And then, I don't know, Robert, do I maybe hear some background noise on your end or?
No.
No, maybe.
Okay, but I also hear, maybe I will turn on.
Perfect. And then I can just give you, a bit more insights in terms of what can be done by all of us that we are part of leadership appointments on a regular basis. So I think the first one is we need to look at the people that are involved in recruiting in leadership appointments. And it starts with the candidates out there. So if I'm the hiring company or if I'm the executive search firm, I need to have access to the widest relevant pool possible. But that only comes from credibility, intimacy, trust that you are building over time. So it's not a one-off and it's not a quick action you can just launch. Then secondly, we are very much looking at data at Egon Zehnder. And when it comes to gender, we are seeing that if you have female consultants part of the recruiting team, you end up presenting more female candidates for interviews than when it's only male candidates, only male consultants. Likewise, we're also seeing if there is proper knowledge of DE&I present with consultants, you reach a more diverse outcome in terms of candidates being presented to a client. Likewise, if you look at the client team, you want to have a diverse client team. If 40% of the client team is female, there's a 40% or more chance of there being a female hire on that specific project. So that's like in terms of how to set up your project for recruiting a new talent. And then you need to look at the search criteria. And there my plea always tends to be, don't make the criteria too narrow. Don't try to just create this long list of all the things somebody should have already done in the past. That's not how it works. It's especially not how it works if you want to tap into a diverse talent pool, which is simply smaller. Plus, at the same time, you might benefit from a more innovative approach that comes from someone who has seen another industry. And then I think there's other elements such as having diversity statistics in such a process from start to finish, looking into lived experience, the bit more bumpy rides someone may have visible on a CV. you need to do something like effective candidate calibration. But that's then really just about the hygiene factors, the fundamentals of conducting a proper process. And then lastly, don't think any kind of recruiting starts the moment someone signs the contract. That's the starting point. And then you need to focus on the best possible integration process of a minimum of 180 days. So in summary, I think there's way better ways to recruit leaders than what we are currently seeing by and large. Is it rocket science? Absolutely not. Does it require, however, intention and a willingness to change? Absolutely yes.
Okay, thank you. I think it's also very, very useful for internal auditors to run for example, the audits about how look like the recruitment process in my company, who is responsible for this process, which kind of requirements we have during this process, and how we choose the people, what is important for us. And this transparency, I think it's a really crucial starting point, because without transparency, we will have always bias on the final stage. Yeah? But Agata, you created teams, you create your own company, and you work with different people in different age, with sometimes also with different education levels. So could you give some tips about how to create inclusive team? Yeah? What is important?
Yeah, so the truth is that, as you said, there are people from especially different age or different generations at my firm. And it is, of course, for me, very important what Sylvia has just said, that the recruitment starts at the moment when you sign, but later on the whole work needs to be done. And this whole work is needed to be done by us inside. So for me, the most important thing is to show the culture of my company or my firm to the people who are being brought in. This culture, for example, of communication, of the fact that they can always be heard. Of course, it's not that they can come every moment into my room and say, "Oh my God, I don't know, I have a headache." It's more about the fact that I always encourage them to have. There is always. We created something like a buddy concept, that there is always someone when a new person comes into the office to work. He always gets a buddy, so a person who is older or works longer in a company, and it's a person who he can always raise questions to, whose work is to make him feel better in this new environment, but also to show them what are our values. And recently I have a situation in my company that there's a man who works for us for several times. He's a great expert, really. As from the point of view of being a legal expert, he's great. But unfortunately, there was a situation that was difficult, because he wrote on Teams some words to a person who is, let's say, who is a manager, or his manager. She's a woman. And he wrote this message in a way that, from my point of view, shouldn't be done in this way. And it was from my point of view, it was very crucial to very quickly react. So I asked him to come to me together with his manager. So we were sitting together, and I said to him that I really think that you are one of the greatest experts here. We do need you. We do want to have people like you in this company. But unfortunately, you cannot use the words you said. You cannot react in this way. You shouldn't write these words, because sometimes when you write a thing, it is and you write it in emotions. It has a completely different way how it could be read by a person who received this message. So I told him, maybe you should first come to your manager and talk to her, or maybe you should just take few deep breaths and then to react, because no one wanted to do anything against you, but the way you reacted, the way you wrote this message, is something that I cannot accept. And this is the first time that you did it, so it's like a yellow card. But unfortunately, if you make it again, even though I think you're one of my greatest employees, I can't. We can't work together, because you shouldn't just behave in this way. And I think, and what is important, I also was a little bit afraid how he would react, because I know him. I know that it's hard for him to be criticized. But frankly speaking, it happens few months ago, and it's now totally different. So the whole situation changed, and I think it was very important for his manager that we reacted, for him that he get this feedback from us, and now it's everything improved. So this is what I really care about, is how the people treat themselves in this workplace that we spend here about half of our lives. So this environment should be a place when they want to come, when they want to do things together. Because I'm totally agree that coming out for dinner, I don't know, drinks, it's not so fancy for young people anymore, but they do want to spend time together, because, for example, they want to do to have some activities with their families, like a picnic or something. They want to they want to, for example, we do a lot of sports together. So we have our female triathlon team inside the company that we are doing triathlons together. We have a running trainings, and this is what we can do together as a company. And people in general, they want to train, so they are very keen on the fact that they can train together inside the company. So this is what we decided to do, so to create a place where, for example, they can do trainings together. So what I'm trying to do is to listen to people. So we are organizing a kind of questionnaires to get also feedback from them, what they need. Because, as I said, I'm from this generation that was very work oriented. I know that the Z generation thinks a little bit different from what I was from what was the most important for me. So because of that, I'm trying to get as much information from them as possible to make it all work. And when most of my friends who are running the law firms are telling me that people are coming, leaving the jobs, and this fluctuation is high, I would say that I'm so grateful that from my company almost no one leaves. So this is great, and that this team is really strong, and that they like each other, and they like the place where they come. So to work and to spend this few hours of their everyday life. So yeah, so this is how it looks like from my perspective.
Okay, thank you. So again, it's about the leadership. It's about also the culture of feedback, to react when we see that something bad happened. And we are open to take the consequences of that, because we want to have people with some values in our work, not only good experts. So it's also a good hint, and leading by example, and like each other. Yeah. So and it's really possible, as we see on your example. Robert, I know that you need to leave us in a short moment, but last question about SSG for you. Because we speak a lot about the culture. You put some points about SSG, new regulation, disclosures, because not every company is so great, and not every company can create inclusive culture. Sometimes we need to force a bit, and the example of force company to do the things or to be more inclusive is CSRD directive, this S letter that you said before, and this, for example, Women in Board directive that we will have soon in European Union. So could you tell more about the role of this regulation in building inclusive or building the position of women in the organization?
Well, okay, first of all, the regulations themselves, and there's a large, particularly from the EU side coming in, is going to require companies to disclose information on the social, on the actual makeups of the boards, on the gender, on the pay gap, requirements. This will increase transparency. And I think to do anything in life, you need to have some form of transparency to be able to compare apples with apples, and for people to compare companies, organizations, where they are, which way they're going, what their policies are. And this disclosure, I think, will enable companies to raise to that level, that there will be information on, is there a pay gap? And of course, if there's a pay gap, would people want to go and join them? Of course not, because you're going to say, well, that's not an organization I want to go. If there are no women on the board and the supervisory board or in the management, will you want to join in that company just outright? No. So this will actually be, you could say, it's a sort of a cycle, but the reverse, by exposing the good and the bad and people having the information, there will be more choice and people will be able to make choice. And I think that will actually increase the potential for improvement as people will move with their feet. And people will move with their feet in terms of organizations. But more importantly, the companies that have these problems will have to actively go out and recruit, because they'll see they have a problem. They'll pay. So actually, there will be an opportunity, and hopefully a bigger one, for mobility and improvement of on that agenda, because you will have to have the diversity included. So I think that will take time, but that is a positive aspect, where companies will have to look at that, pay in a transparent way, pay equally, promote throughout. The big issue for companies, therefore, will also be, because it will take time to implement, is of course succession planning, and bringing in the succession planning, the coaching, the approach. It doesn't mean that we're going to have, because it's that you always have. I mean, as I say, I believe in merit very much, but it's giving the succession planning an opportunity for people to develop and coaching them, so that they can meet those targets in the future from your organization, internally or externally. For law firms, for accountants, for the professional side, it will mean a lot of training, but the pool is there, the talent is there, there's no question. It's how you're going to retain it. It's how you're going to encourage to retain. And of course, encouraging retainment, in my view, will actually come with some of the social soft, but supporting on child, supporting on various situations. And that will then create equality. So I think the legislation is going both in the environment, be it the climate, be it on the social, be it on actually diversity and gender side, will have a big impact. Young people look at these reports more than, because they're all on the smartphones all the time. So they look and read these things more than the older generation does. We're sort of a bit still like to print things out, and maybe we're getting away from that, but we still sometimes like to have it printed out. So that, I think, will change. That's going to be a revolution in some ways, and hopefully will address those gaps, but that cultural sort of change. But transparency is the beginning of everything, so that we can actually compare. And then people, hopefully management boards will see it. People are moving with their feet, don't want to be in certain companies, or move from one professional firm to another, because they see it's actually not as inclusive as it should be. So there will be a lot of action on that, I think, and that's positive.
Okay, thank you. I see that.
So I have to go into right now, because I'm scheduled to be something else. So I'm happy I could step in. Great crowd, and yes, and hopefully I could sort of contribute from sort of a different perspective. And I know I have a lot to learn.
Okay.
It was lovely chatting with you.
Thank you very much, Robert. Once again, it was really a pleasure, and I'm really grateful that you joined us today, and you were so flexible. So thank you. Okay, but we have we have still a few minutes. So Sylvia, Agata, so last question for you. Maybe you have some insightful takeaways for our participants before we will finish, but don't leave us yet, because we still do not finish, and I have a few announcements nice for you also at the end, so please stay with us.
I'll happily just build on what Robert said related to the Women on Board Directive. which is going to benefit from more transparency and people having an easier time voting with their feet. Who do I want to be associated with? I think it's only the first step. So more is going to come from it. One is now we are tackling the boards, but then we need to tackle basically all the C-suite positions, and it needs to trickle down. The second aspect, of course, is we will address not just gender. Afterwards, we need to have more diverse boards in terms of origins, nationalities, ages. I think it's going to come. I think, it's the starting point. And I'm so hopeful also because we are seeing that those countries who already adopted binding quotas, and I'm not afraid to use the word quota, they have made the biggest progress in the last past years. So I think that's on the one part still on the directive. The second bit of my closing remark would be on inclusive culture and inclusive leadership once again. Diversity, filling a quota per se, is of no good yet. It's a relevant prerequisite, but it needs to be met by inclusion in an organization. Secondly, for that, we definitely need psychological safety, which is also not something that just happens from one day to the other. There's a process to be seen behind. Thirdly, what I already said was we need to get out of the bubble. We need to be in touch with others who are not yet on this journey of DE&I. And we definitely need to be leading from the top. We need to make it a priority when we are in roles of power. And we also need to understand that it's all about partnerships. So what I like to say is if you think you can do it on your own, you're not yet thinking big enough. So thank you for the invitation to be doing something.
Thank you. Thank you, Sylvia. Agata, so last word is yours.
Okay, so I would say that there is a saying that be the change you want to see in the world, and I think that for all of us who are managers of the companies who are running the the organizations, associations, and companies, we should remember that what we are doing around ourselves in our local environment. This is, for example, what we do also in the association with the Beautiful Angels, so Stowarzyszenie Piękne Anioły, that we are helping those who are not asking for help because they are poor and they usually they don't. They prefer to be invisible and they don't ask for that, and it's our job to find them, to find the problem and to help them and support them in a way. And I think it's the same what we should do in the environment around us, especially the one that we create. So it's our responsibility, it's our obligation to react, to change the way we think, we speak, to care about it, to find maybe someone younger who can be our mentee, to help them to support the way he thinks, because as we said here, it's not only the problem of women who are dealing with problems like maybe I'm not good enough to do something, but it's also a problem of men who are scared in a way. So it's all about from my perspective, it's all about what we can do also around us, and we should really take care of the organizations we create. Or, for example, if you are an auditor and you are checking what is happening inside, these are also the things that you could pay attention to those who are running the companies, to show them that even though they think that everything is so well organized, maybe there is always something that can be done better than that. So.
Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you for your time, for your presentation, for your insightful examples. I think that now we know a bit better, a bit more, and we can tackle this challenge a bit better. At least I hope that it was not only nice presentation, but something that we can use in our everyday life, in our job. So thank you one more time, Sylvia, Agata, Milena, thank you for your participation. I would like to also thank you to our partner that I don't introduce on the beginning, and I should do this. It's 30% Club, it's European Women in Board, Forum Odpowiedzialnego Biznesu, but also CECA Legal, so the company of Agata, Women in Law, but also ACCA Poland, Institute of Internal Auditor in Poland, and Association of Independent Board Members. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, our participants. And as I promised, I have a few announcements at the end. The first is about the certificate, because you always ask me how we can receive the certificate from this event. So just after the event, you will receive an email with a link, and you need to download the certificate on your computer. Another thing is about the training that run my company, and we have a few trainings still in this year. So if you would like to join us, it's a good time. Mainly they are in November, but also the one is in October. And also with Ewa Sowińska, we will start a new postgraduate studies for SSG in practice, but special edition for internal auditors. So could be something useful. Soon I will also have a news for you about new certificates provided by IA Global about SSG for internal auditors, but also other, I think, professionals can have this certificate. So I will be one of the person in Europe that will run this training. So soon I will deliver more information for you. And last thing is that our next meeting, Audit Talks Over Coffee, will be in November. We will speak about greenwashing and about other risk or fraud. But this one will be in Polish, so sorry for those who cannot participate because of the language, but we have now the model of these webinars that at least 2 in the year are in English, and this is the second one in English this year, but I hope that you will join us next year on webinars run in English, which will be also dedicated to, I think, interested and important topics for everyone. So again, thank you very much. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, Agata. Thank you, Milena, and hope see you soon. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.